Hello everyone. Okay, today I want to talk about language. Alright, so language is really important. Language has a lot of weight. When I'm working with people, I'm constantly listening to their language and what they say about themselves and what they say about others, and just through their narrative. And it's really interesting because your language really gives you a good insight into what the person is actually thinking and where they're coming from and their world view, their belief system. It's really powerful. Also, when we present language to others too, it's a really powerful thing too. It can be taken in so many ways. So communication can be misinterpreted so easily. So the idea is that we become mindful of our language, and I spoke about mindfulness in a couple of other videos there. So we become mindful of our language, and because we know that language has weight, and language can create emotion, and language can create triggers within people. So there's a couple of words that I wanted to present to you from a perspective of neutral language. Okay, so neutral language basically decreases the weight of language. Okay, and when we decrease the weight of language, it also decreases their cognitive capacity to work through things as well. So what I wanted to share with you is a couple of words, all right, and I'll put them up on the screen where you can actually have a look at them. And what I want you to do is to be aware of when you're using particular words, and then to change those words when you start to notice. Okay, so the first one is we want to replace should with could. Okay, should with could, because when we say should is a very it's a closed caption in a sense. Look, if I was a good father, I should do this. Rather saying if I wanted to role model being a good parent, I could do these particular things. And could opens up opportunities. Could gives us choice as well, and it takes the pressure off. If you should somebody else, when we're looking at that three brains, you're going to come into that threat opportunity. You're going to come in as a threat. Whereas if you give the option of could, you're going to be seen as more of an opportunity. All right. So think about language in relation to the three brains video. If you haven't seen that one, go back to that. I would have sent you out some links around that, and there should be something on the Facebook page as well. Now this one's a kicker. Get rid of difficult and replace it with challenge. So difficult. Obviously, if something's difficult, then it's pretty hard, because, hard, difficult, that's the next level up. So what we want to do is we want to get rid of difficult, and we want to replace it with a challenge. If I have a difficult situation, or if I have a difficult problem, that's really difficult, okay? And I've got to search for a solution. I've got to, that's just really difficult. Straight away, I'm on the back foot. Whereas if I swap it to challenge, I'm up for a challenge. If I've got a challenging situation compared to a difficult problem, and see how I've got problem and situation, which is the next thing that I'll talk about. But challenge is I'm up for it. Yes, it does sit outside the comfort zone, and it will create some angst and anxiety and potentially some self-doubt. However, I'm up for the challenge, and when I reach the challenge and I achieve the challenge, then I feel a lot better than with myself. Whereas if it's difficult, I may not even go there. Okay, so get rid of difficult and swap it with challenge. All right. The next one, beautiful kicker, is get rid of your problems and swap them with situations. I haven't had problems for maybe last 20 years. Okay, I do have a shitload of situations, however. But situations are neither good nor bad. They bring you to the moment. My kids don't come to me with problems anymore. They come to me with situations. Dad, I've got a bit of a situation. Can you give me a hand with that? Yep, no worries. Whereas they come to me with a problem, then I've got to find the solution. Sometimes problems can be difficult. See how I can then have a challenging situation compared to a difficult problem. Now, there are only two words that we've swapped, but the weight of those is really significant. And it doesn't put as much load on us as a difficult problem would. And remember too, even going back to some of the other videos about being grateful for stress, if I'm going to feel probably more stressed out with a difficult problem than I am going to be with a challenging situation. If I have a challenging situation and I've dealt with those in the past, I am more grateful to be delivered a challenging situation because I then see it as growth. Whereas if I'm delivered a difficult problem, straight away I'm in the stress response, I've got cortisol being released, I'm a dumb fuck basically because my IQ decreases by half within 15 minutes, and then all the other things that come from it. So remember that gratitude for stress. This can also be utilised within the languages that we use. Okay. Now the other one, perspective versus opinion. We don't usually use the word too much of opinion. I prefer perspective, so just be aware of that. You know, if someone shares something with you, you go, wow, that's a really interesting perspective you have on things. See how there's, it allows that to be in that space. It allows us to sit with that rather than resisting it. So look at perspective as something quite part of your vocabulary. Adopt versus change. Yes. Okay. Now this is a really good one. Okay. Now we talk about change, change model, stepping outside your comfort zone, change is good, all those other bits and pieces. However, if I ask you to change, there's a lot of pressure on that. And looking at the three brains, that change that I'm hitting you up with there, it can potentially be a threat, as it is to the mind. When the mind perceives that we are going to change, it perceives it as threat. It then employs all of the self-doubt, the anxiety, the inner critic, all of those modes of self to try to bring you back into your comfort zone. Whereas if I ask you to adopt, so what I'm asking you guys to is adopt these principles, adopt these practices for a period of time, and then to see if there is a difference, to notice the difference. And then if there is a difference, can you appreciate that difference? And I'm just asking you to adopt. At no point will I come and say, hey, you need to change, okay, or you should change. You've got the opportunity to adopt something for a period of time, so then we can then see what comes from it. I will say to you, however, though, we can change your relationship with something. See how changing your relationship with something, that sounds more like an opportunity than a challenge. So, opportunity than a threat, sorry. So, once again, depending where the words are used, if I ask you to change, that's a threat, whereas if I ask you to adopt something, there's more of an opportunity that sits within that as well. So, that is neutral language, okay? You will have a copy of these words, so then you can then even print them out, and also then start to notice how you can then replace, and then start to notice the difference when you do replace. This stuff is really, really powerful, and the Buddhists, they call it non-confrontational language. There's a couple of people that have written many, many books on this. I like to coin the phrase neutral language. This is just coming down to the language that you and I use on a daily basis. But I have noticed that how I communicate with people and how people take my communication, and also, more importantly, how I communicate with myself. Because if I'm telling myself I should do things, then I'm putting pressure on myself, okay? And once again, bring it back to self. So I hope you got something out of that. Very, very powerful stuff. So I'll see you next time.